Hey everybody, this is the Facebook Ads with the Twang podcast. I'm your host, Ben Blackman, and today we're going to be talking about how to hire the right Facebook ads person. So let's get started. This is episode number 6. Facebook Ads with the Twang is dedicated to taking the often overcomplicated process of creating simple, successful Facebook ads, breaking them down step by step in less than 10 minutes at a time. Let's get started. All right, well, I am back from vacation, and last week was pretty doggone good. I didn't do any work, though. That's the bad news. So my email box overfloweth, and didn't do any extra podcasts, so I'm trying to catch up. And today I have picked a doozy of a topic to do for the podcast. So it's really probably going to be longer than 10 minutes. I would say it'll be double that, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but this is something that's pretty important, and I don't know how to make it work under 10 minutes, and I don't want to split it up into multiple episodes because I think you lose something when you split them up into multiple episodes, like you lose your train of thought or something like that, and I didn't really want to do it that way. So today what we're going to be talking about is how to hire the right person to run your Facebook ads. And this is a pretty important thing. I mean, if you're at that point, whether you're one of these people who just are like, my business is going so well, I know how to do it, but I need to hand it off to somebody, or where you're somebody's just like, hey, I can't do it. It's complicated. I don't understand it. It makes my palms sweat when I think about it. I mean, whatever it is, hopefully this will help you decide on who to hire and what to do going forward. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is you need to define whether or not you're looking for a Facebook ads manager or whether you're looking for somebody who is a Facebook ads marketing expert. And so there's a pretty big difference between those two. The Facebook ads manager, to put it in simple terms, I mean, my 12-year-old can input a Facebook ad, right? I mean, I can say, hey, Jace, will you input this ad for me? He can go do it. It's done in 10 minutes. Done. But there's no strategy behind it, right? He just inputs it for me. And he could tell me what the results are after it's been running, but he doesn't really have a strategy to do it. So you can hire somebody that just does that part of it, and that would probably be pretty inexpensive. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but you could probably get a virtual assistant to do that as well. But a Facebook ads a marketing expert is completely different because they'll have a full strategy behind it, or they better have a strategy behind it. And they're going to be able to guide you and collaborate with you on how to best run your Facebook ads campaign, not just input the ads, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about. What do you want? What do you need for your business? That's what we're thinking about here. So the first thing I want to kind of tackle is, where should you go to look for somebody to manage your Facebook ads, whether you're looking for a manager or a marketing expert or whatever. And a lot of people go to Facebook groups, like larger Facebook groups or even smaller ones, and they ask for a recommendation. So what happens usually when this recommendation is asked for is people will come back and they'll say, oh, use such and such, they're awesome, use this person, use that person. And that's great. That's a good thing. Most of those are perfectly fine. You just have to be a little bit cautious, because I do know some people who actually hire people to go into groups and just recommend them when an expert's asked for. So you have to just kind of bear that in mind. But for the most part, it's really pretty good. The one thing that I don't really like is when you ask for recommendations, a lot of times in the bigger groups, you'll get a lot of Me Too Facebook ads people. And what I mean by that is somebody will post, oh, I'm the best, I've done this campaign and that campaign, we have these results and I'm awesome. And then the next person says, me too, me too, me too. And that's all that it is. And so, what I would want you to think about is, if you're looking for a Facebook ads marketing expert, why would they be using Me Too advertising for themselves, right? Why would they be saying me too, me too? Why wouldn't they, give you the benefits or give you some valuable content or give you something other than, hey, I'm the best? because there's no value in I'm the best. There's zero, right? I mean, no value there. And so if they can't give you value on their own service, how in the world are they going to run a successful Facebook ads campaign for yours, for what you're trying to do, if they can't do it for themselves? So, just think about that when you see these people who are posting that. It doesn't mean that some of them aren't good. It's just a cautionary tale, because sooner or later, when you grow to a certain point, that may not be the way you want to go. I just don't like Me Too marketing, and the people who are really good, they don't really have to brag. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So anyway, just something to think about when you're posting in Facebook groups. Now, you can also hire somebody through like Freelancer or Fiverr or maybe Upwork or something like that. And so something to think about when you're going to go that route is, first of all, do you want the cheapest Facebook ads person that there is? I mean, is that what you're looking for? I mean, it's kind of like going to the doctor. Do you want the cheapest doctor there is operating on you? I mean, I don't know if that's the route you really want to go. Doesn't mean there's not some good people, because there are. Again, there's plenty of good people, but it's hard to verify their track record, for one thing. You didn't get a recommendation. You're just going by what you posted and what people responded to and what they're telling you on that. So sometimes what you want versus what you get are two different things. The other thing is that you can have a Facebook ads person anywhere in the world. And regardless of where you are, you just want to make sure that the context of what you're asking for versus what they're saying is the same. So I've run into this problem more than a few times, where somebody hired it out to somebody that was in a different country than they're in. There was a bit of a language barrier, or maybe just a small difference, but the context was what was the bigger barrier. Like this person I was thinking of, and specifically what they were asking for versus what the person they hired was giving them, was two different things, right? And the person didn't understand what was being asked of them to do. So when you're hiring that out, that's something else you want to think about before you decide to do it on one of those kind of sites. Now, another thing, or another way to do it, is you can certainly search Google, right? You can ask for Facebook ads management or expert or whatever you want. And when you see the results pop up, what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of very expensive, for the most part, very expensive options. It doesn't mean that they're not good, but just remember, those are going to be your higher priced people, because they are, if they're higher up in the SEO, they have to, do stuff to maintain that. They don't just get there just by dumb luck. Okay, so it costs a lot of money to be there and to stay there. So and in turn, that's going to be passed on to you. So that's something to think about as well. And there's a lot of overkill, right? A lot of them have a lot more services, a lot more things that they do that you don't really need. So that's factored into what they charge as well. Now, the best way, and maybe it's not always the best way, but one of the other ways is referral. You can get somebody by referral in general. Like, you can reach out to somebody who's in one of your groups and message them directly, another peer or colleague, and ask them, hey, who do you use for your Facebook ads? How do you like it? That kind of thing. So the downside of that is obviously the cost still could be higher. I mean, it could be, you may not know what they're paying and that kind of thing, and so you may have a potential cost issue, but maybe not. You just don't know till you ask. And of course, you need to know whether or not they're a good fit for you. Now, that's true with anybody, but you want to know if they're going to be they may be a good fit for your colleague or your peer, but maybe they're not a good fit for you. So that's all part of the interview process. And I'm going to talk about how to, what questions you should be asking them in just a minute. And then the last thing I threw this in at the last minute was this whole thing about using your virtual assistant. So, if you have a virtual assistant, great. You can certainly ask them to input the ads. The question would be, are they a marketing expert? They may be, maybe not. I don't know. But the cost obviously would be lower, like I said. So a little story is that I had a client who referred somebody to me, and I told her how much it would be, for me to run their ads. They decided to get their virtual assistant to do it because they didn't want to pay for it, and that's certainly fine. I mean, maybe it wasn't in their budget. I don't really know. So their assistant who was working on them kept emailing me with questions. And I finally had to cut it off. I was like, look, this is how much it costs for me to do it. I can't walk people through. And even if I can, when I do walk people through, you have to maintain all the updates that are going on in Facebook, because they don't stay the same all the time, right? Facebook's constantly updating stuff. I constantly have to be reading stuff and looking at stuff and trying different stuff. And, I do this all day. So I can't expect somebody who doesn't do this all day to keep up with those kind of updates. And so I finally told them, hey, look, this is what you're hiring me to do if you want me to do it. If you don't, I can't walk you through the updates. I'm sorry. That's just not something I'm able to do. So, like I said, a virtual assistant's fine if it, is going to work out for you ultimately. And so now let's just think about some of the questions that you should be asking yourself. I'm sorry, that you should ask potential people who you're thinking about hiring to do your Facebook ads. And so I'm going to kind of go down through these real quick, but the first one is just note that anybody can tell you they're winners, and that's what they're going to do. Almost everybody out there is going to tell you, oh, I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and that's great, good. They should have winners. Let's hope that they do, right? But what's more telling is their top 3 worst campaigns. Ask them about it. What happened? What kind of campaigns were they? Are those clients still clients, or did they go elsewhere? What did they do about them? How did they pivot? How did it all come down? And if they're hesitant to give you that information, then it's one of two things. Either they haven't been in business very long, so they don't have their worst campaigns yet, or 2, maybe they're not giving you the full story on what's going on with their business. So the 3 worst campaigns are very telling, because when you have a challenge with any kind of marketing, but specifically Facebook ads, how you pivot and recover from that says more about your business than virtually anything else. Okay, so that's why I say that. Ask them about them. Next, you want to ask them if they can provide a proposal with an outlined strategy or flow chart. So a lot of times when I see competitors' proposals and so forth, they don't really have a strategy there. It's just, hey, this is how much it costs me for manager ads, blah. And that's all there is to it. And I'm thinking, well, where's the strategy? There's no strategy there. So you need a strategy. That's, and it needs to be an agreeable strategy. Like you think it's a good strategy and they think it's a good strategy, so y'all can work them together. Make sure you find out exactly what is included with their proposal, right? Who's providing the images, who's doing the copy, how often are they checking in, when do they provide status updates? What all is included there? How many ads does it include per month, and retargeting, pixels? You want to know about all that stuff. So the next thing is, and I think is hugely important really, is that do they run Facebook ads to promote their own business? And if they do, can you see the results of those campaigns? So there's 2 things there. One, are they running Facebook ads to promote their own business? If they're not, why not? If they believe in Facebook ads, why wouldn't they be promoting it using Facebook ads? That's one thing. And if they are, which they should be, by the way. If they're not, I probably wouldn't hire them to begin with. But if they're not, can you see the results of those campaigns? And if they say no, why not? Why can't you see the results? Just ask them to jump into Power Editor. You don't want screenshots. Say, let's screen share right now while you're on the call with them, and let's take a look at them. Let's see what your campaigns look like. Show me how it's doing. Good or bad, doesn't matter. Let's look at it. If they're hesitant to do that, I'd be hesitant to hire them. Okay, it's just that simple. There's plenty of Facebook ads experts out there, right? But the only ones that really count are the ones that are willing to show you what's really going on. Okay, and anybody who's doing any amount of Facebook ads at scale has things that aren't working right. They have many more things that are working right, but they have things that aren't, and they're not afraid to show you those. So that's kind of what I'm talking about there. I hope all that made sense. And so, in addition to that, I like to ask people, or I think it's really important to ask, what tools outside of Facebook do they use? What third-party tools? Now, I've had people argue about this, and whatever, just think that you don't need any other tools and that kind of thing, and that's fine. Okay, nothing wrong with that. Or bash tools that I've used, or whatever, and that's okay too. We all like different things. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, I will tell you this, almost every person that I have talked to who does any substantial amount of Facebook ads uses some third-party tools to determine to help their campaigns. And what I mean by that is either they may not use them all the time in every campaign, but they do use them in general. They invest in their own business. In other words, that's the point. If your Facebook ads person's not investing in their own business, meaning they're not buying courses on Facebook ads, they're not reading stuff about Facebook ads, and they're not investing in tools to use in their business, I don't know if you'd want to hire them. I mean, you have to do that for your business, right? Why wouldn't they do it for theirs? So, are they using things like Ad Espresso or Quia, which those are third-party tools that actually input Facebook ads, and they're helpful to input Facebook ads, a lot of them at one time to test a lot of different things. Now, I will tell you, for the most part, I do use Power Editor. Okay, I do, but I still have a subscription for Ad Espresso in case I need it. All right, and I use it for certain things. Do they have any tools to, outside of Facebook to track campaigns? I mean, that's another big. And what about interest targeting or metrics? I mean, do they use any tools for that? So, like, a couple of things. One, I have a tool that I can look at any Facebook ad that any business page has ever run. Okay, so if I wanted to see what Tony Robbins had run, right, from his Facebook page, then I could see every ad that's been run from the Tony Robbins Facebook page. I can also see specific metrics. I can see, what impressions from which interests get, the most amount of people served, and how many clicks and all those kinds of things. So I invest in that. So if you're hiring somebody that doesn't invest in that, that might be another thing to think about. So I hope those kind of and I hope you can see where I'm going with that. And there may be other things that you can think of, but those are the primary things that I'm thinking in my head. Hey, this is what I would want to know. All right, if I'm hiring somebody to do my Facebook ads. And so maybe you're thinking about, okay, great. So, but what is all this going to cost? Well, what I would challenge you to do first of all is define your goals and know what your numbers are before you think about hiring somebody. And understand what your budget is to hire somebody, not just to run the ads, but to pay somebody, because that's the question, right? You don't necessarily want to go and try to hire somebody and have no idea what your budget is for them, because then you're going to spin your wheels a lot. You're going to run into people who are charging way too much, or you're going to find somebody who charges really low, and you're thinking, well, this is all the money I got, so this is the only option that I have. So that's not a good place to be. But it can cost anywhere between $500 to $50,000 per month, right, depending on what you're trying to do and what your campaigns are going to look like. And that is what you have to understand before you hire somebody. So ask yourself these kinds of questions before you even think about hiring somebody. One is, is your offer tested? In other words, have you tested your offer and have people purchase from you without using any kind of ads? Or if they have, even with other kinds of ads. If you haven't, you probably don't want to start with Facebook ads. You want to get somebody to buy from you, or a group of people to buy from you first, and then start running ads, because you want to have that interest out there. That interest is hugely important to make your campaigns work. So make sure that you're testing that and you validated what you have. The next thing is number two is, can you afford somebody, or versus can you not afford to have somebody? I hope that makes sense. So can I afford to hire somebody, or can I afford to not hire somebody? And those are two completely different things, right? So if you're gonna say, okay, well, I can't really afford to not hire somebody, but it's going to cost you more money in the long run of testing, because you're going to go out and spend $5,000 in ads with little or no results because you're trying to save a little money, then you couldn't afford to not hire somebody. So make sure you answer that question for yourself. I'm not saying everybody needs to hire somebody. There's plenty of people out there that can run their own ads. But do you need to run your own ads? Is that the best use of your time? I don't know. That's for you to answer. The next one, number three, is, are you ready for a team? Because now you're going to have a team, right? Even if it's just one other person, you're going to have a team. So are you ready for that? because that's what you're going to have, and you need to be able to communicate with them. How are you going to communicate with your team and make sure that you understand where they are and they understand where you are, and that you're communicating effectively and how things are going? So think about that. And number 4 is, and this is, I'm telling you, this should have been the first question, right? The question is do I see this as an expense to be managed, or am I hiring an asset to generate revenue? So now let me say that again. Do you see the person that you're thinking about hiring as an expense that you're just trying to manage that expense? Or are you thinking about this person that you're hiring as an asset who's going to generate massive revenue for your growing business? And so what I'm going to challenge you to do here is say, if you think of them as an expense, I probably wouldn't hire anybody, because then all you're going to be trying to do is try to get the cost down, right? Instead of scaling the successes. I'm not saying you don't need to keep expenses in mind and you don't need to monitor those, because you absolutely do. But if you're focused on the expense part of it, it's going to be very difficult to grow your business into any kind of massive success. So if you see it as, hey, this person I'm hiring them to generate revenue. This is an asset to me. I'm paying for it, and this is generating revenue. That's where it is. Then that's a totally different mindset. So that's really where you want to be. Now, number 5 is, you're asking yourself this, do I have a basic understanding of Facebook ads so I'll understand what they are talking about? If you don't know anything about Facebook ads, then you're going to need to take some courses, at least rudimentary type stuff, so you understand what they're talking about. You don't want them talking over your head or using, technical speak or marketing speak or something like that, where you're just like, okay. That's not a good place to come from. You want to come from a place of power. So understanding what the terminology is hugely important for you. So make sure that you do that. Make sure you understand it. Number 6, ask yourself, am I in this for the long term? If you're not in it for the long term, Facebook ads not a good thing. It's not I know people have had quick hit successes. I have too. Okay, but that's not a good strategy. Long-term strategy takes time, obviously, hence the term long-term, right? That's what I'm saying. You want to make sure that you have a long-term strategy in your head and on paper so that you know which direction you're going to head. And, because the Facebook ads will go up and down. You're going to have some that just don't do well, and then you're going to have some that just take off. That's long-term strategy. Most people just have one or the other, and it's usually something that doesn't work, and then they quit. That doesn't work. Okay? So, the last question that you need to ask, and then we'll the podcast, this is all I have for this. If you don't hire somebody, how will you manage your Facebook ads? Who's going to take care of it? Are you going to do it? Is your VA going to do it? Is your 12-year-old son going to do it? I mean, who's going to manage your Facebook ads if you don't do it? And remember, if you manage them, nothing wrong with that. You have to stay on top of it, because Facebook ads changes too much and too often to just let them run on their own. So that's all I have for you today on how to hire a Facebook ads manager. I really hope that you got a lot out of it. I was really glad that able to express this and put it out there. I know it's a lot longer than most episodes. If you have any questions at all, please, feel free to email me, superman@onefocusmarketing.com. Again, that's superman@onefocusmarketing.com, and I will be more than glad to try to answer your questions. And, if you need anything at all, I really appreciate it. Anyway, I will see you guys on the next episode, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.